The snow fell in relentless sheets, blanketing the vast Wyoming plains in a merciless white shroud that seemed to swallow the world whole. Mary Ellison clutched the reins of the oxen with numb fingers, her breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps as the wagon creaked forward through the deepening drifts. It had been 3 days since Thomas had drawn his last breath, his body racked by a fever that had come on swift and unforgiving during their ill-fated journey west. They had set out from Missouri with dreams of fertile land and a new life, but the trail had turned treacherous, claiming first their companions in a flash flood, then their meager supplies to opportunistic bandits, and now her husband to the cruel whims of illness. Mary had buried him in a shallow grave by the side of the trail, her hands blistered and bleeding from the frozen earth, whispering prayers over the mound as the first flurries began to fall. Now, alone with her 2 newborns, Abigail and Samuel, born just a week prior in the back of this very wagon, she fought against the encroaching despair that matched the storm's fury. The twins whimpered faintly against her chest, bundled in the last scraps of woolen blankets, their tiny faces pale and pinched with hunger. Mary's milk had begun to dry up, her body too starved to sustain them, and the canteen of water she rationed was nearly empty, its contents freezing into slush despite her efforts to keep it warm beneath her shawl. The blizzard had descended without warning, transforming the open prairie into a howling void where visibility stretched no further than a few feet. The oxen lowed pitifully, their massive frames struggling against the wind that whipped snow into their eyes and nostrils. Mary urged them on with a cracked voice, her words lost in the gale, but she knew it was futile. The wagon wheels sank deeper with each turn, the wood groaning under the strain. She had no map, no compass beyond the faint memory of the trail markers they'd passed days ago, and the landmarks were now obliterated by the storm. Panic clawed at her throat as she imagined the fate awaiting them, freezing in this godforsaken wilderness, her baby's cries silenced forever. Thomas's face haunted her, his final words a plea for her to press on, to find safety for their children. But how? She was a widow at 23, unaccustomed to the harsh realities of the frontier, her soft hands from a life in the city now calloused and raw. The cold seeped through her thin dress and coat, numbing her limbs, and she could feel her strength ebbing away like the last embers of a dying fire. Abigail stirred, her weak cry piercing Mary's heart, and she rocked the infant gently, humming a lullaby that her own mother had sung to her in warmer, safer times. Samuel, quieter but no less fragile, suckled futilely at her breast, finding only emptiness. Tears froze on Mary's cheeks as she whispered apologies to them, promises she feared she couldn't keep. Hours blurred in.